This is episode 82.
Welcome to the Ultimate Deck Podcast.
Ultimate Deck Podcast.
Helping you keep your finger firmly pressed on the decking industry, the people in it, and the information you need to master the backyard. And now, host of the Ultimate Deck Podcast, Shane Chapman.
Hey guys,
I like that intro.
welcome back to the podcast.
That's the best intro.
A little bit slow this morning. It's early. Woo! It's early for me because I was up late working. It's earlier for you because you were up late.
Nope.
Damaging yourself.
I was not up late. I was
just a really hard early night.
I was in bed early.
This is good. People are gonna be able to tell. You can hear it in your voice. I can hear the pain. You sound like
I
Johnny
actually
Cash
believe
hurt right
you
now.
might be able to smell the alcohol through this podcast, if that's possible.
This is one of those 4D experiences. Little scratch and sniff test on the
Yep.
podcast.
Pretty unreal.
How come? What were you doing last night?
I played golf yesterday, and on the fourth hole, somebody brought me a fireball shooter. Seen missing.
You only had to do one.
Yep. That's all I had to do, but I didn't. I did more. I did a lot more.
Did you prepare Simcoe News today? Because Simcoe Dex actually is joining us today. Nice of him to come back. You're done with it.
The last
It's
thing I
over.
remember was eating chicken wings on the patio at the golf course, which is amazing that restaurants are open and you can have chicken wings again.
Yeah, I was hoping to take advantage of that up in Saskatoon, and I didn't.
I saw you post about it.
I tried. No,
And
I
then-
didn't try. I was going to order them in, though.
Then what happened?
I went over to Ryan from Vinyl Guys. I decided to pop by his shop because he was there working on his camper or something. And
Yep.
so I went there, and he offered me a shot of Fireball, and
Seen missing.
it's seen missing.
I woke up this morning. I was like fully dressed with my shoes on, laying on bed, face down.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
Okay. No,
So we're
I
going to
had-
get this over, and
I
I'm
had
going to...
4 beers with Ryan. It was a bit late of a night, but never ever made it to the chicken wing thing.
That's
Did a
awful.
McDonald's run at 1 a.m. instead,
Okay.
and ordered like a Big Mac and 5 cheeseburgers.
Were they 99 cents?
I didn't care. I don't. Who knows? I don't know where the receipt is. Doesn't matter.
So
All I do know is that I bought extra. I was like, I don't know how many I'm gonna eat of these tonight, but I know I need breakfast in the morning.
Yep.
And so I ordered extra, and then the next day I didn't have breakfast. I stayed at the store, and then I woke up and I got hungry at some point. And I was like, I gotta go get something to eat. It was like 1 o'clock, and I grabbed my keys and I was on the way out the door. And I was like,
I planned
I've
for
got
this.
cheeseburgers somewhere.
And since they never go bad,
They don't. Yeah. So I marched back into the room and I had 3 left. So that's the damage I did the night before. A Big Mac,
Gross.
2 cheeseburgers. So
gross.
speaking of bad decisions, the topic today.
What's... No?
Oh, okay. You are gonna. You're
Come on.
awfully fired up and ready to go in this segment here, considering your condition.
Simcoe's here. He's got
He's
got
back,
stuff to add
boys,
to
he
it.
says.
No,
Yeah.
patios are back.
Patios are opened up, Simcoe Deck says. So live on the Instagram right now during the podcast, as we always are. So feel free to chime in. This is a topic today that I think we can get some interactivity going on in the Instagram chat. But before we do that, if you've got this all fired up and ready to go, what's happening in Simcoe? Let's do it.
So Apple sales are skyrocketing in Simcoe right now. So it sounds like they have taken to the apple a day theory.
Oh, Apple, like actual apples, not phones.
No, actual apples. Yeah, not phones.
Do they grow apples there? Or what's the
Thornbury Orchard.
Okay.
Thornbury Orchard. Boy, I'm blowing that. It's going to be a whole day of this. Brantford moves to stage 2 in COVID reopening. And so that basically means that patios are open, restaurants are open. That's all a beautiful thing. A Barrie man escaped custody and he leads officers on a brief foot chase, but they got him. And
Mike's not as quick as he used to be.
nope, he's lost a step in his old age. And yeah, that's it. That's basically what's going on. We got a little bit of crime. Mostly their industries are up like everywhere else in the world. Everybody's selling lots of stuff and
That's
patios
good.
are open.
Things are starting to reopen again, and the people in Simcoe County are like, you know what we should do first? Go have some apples.
Apple a day.
Bars are open, yeah, but so are the fruit stands.
So are the fruit stands. Ouch.
Okay. Today's topic is, I was going to name this. I had something clever, and then I didn't think too much about it before we hit the record button. But I was going to call this, Should You or Should You Not?
Oh.
Okay, so fancy name. I just made that up right now on the spot.
You're very clever.
Maybe not the greatest name, but
He's fighting dudes with treasure trails.
it'd be helpful if I had the volume up on that, hey? But what we're going to do today is we're going to take these topics or these building practices that always seem to draw people on both sides of the conversation, both sides of the argument. Like, this is what always happens. It's in these Facebook groups often. Somebody will post a picture of they did something, and like the people nowadays can't just be like, great job. Everybody's got to pick it apart. Doesn't matter how good it is. Like, I wouldn't have done that like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, good thing you didn't build it then.
Internet tough guys.
So anyways, there's some topics that seem to be kind of split. That there's a number of people on both sides of the argument that are like, you shouldn't do that, or you should do that, or this is fine, that's not fine. So we're going to go through 10 things, 10 building practices for the most part.
Are we gonna battle each other on this? Like, you're gonna say something and then I'm gonna tell you it's a terrible idea and why?
We could, I think that you and I are probably on similar sides to most of these. I'm sure there's going to be some natural conflict here, but feel free to play devil's advocate and make this a little bit more interesting.
Deal.
Or not. Like, I don't feel like my opponent really is up to the task today.
We'll see.
I've never, you're sitting 3 feet away from me, but your eyeballs are like 20 feet behind.
Mhm.
Like I'm deep into space staring at you. It's like you're not home.
We'll see.
Yeah. So, again, for the people on the Instagram chat, if there's any, I just lost my, went full prepubescent there. You hear that? It didn't quite go, but it was close. If there's anything that we come across here, we've got 10. So just hear us out on these. But if there's anything that you think is, or you know what, better yet, give us your opinion on each of these things in the chat, because for sure there's going to be people on both sides of the conversation. That's why these exist in the first place. That's why they're on our list, because people generally are.
Yep.
So let's hear your feedback too in the Instagram chat, and if it's not wrong, then we'll share it on the. If you agree with us, we'll share it. Hey,
they might be wrong.
we can filter this.
That
stuff.
could happen.
Yeah. Number 1, taping joists, using joist tape. So this is one that there's always people that are like, this is unnecessary. I've torn out 30-year-old decks. They're fine. I don't use this. I think it's a cash grab. It's useless. So
Yep.
what's your take on taping joists? Yay or nay on this?
It's a cash grab.
He's going to take the path of,
I sell the tape. I make money on it.
yeah.
So truthfully, if it's brand new framing, I tell people this in the store all the time. If it's brand new framing, I don't think it's necessary. I think it is necessary to tape your beams, and I think it's necessary to tape your flat block. But if you're doing a brand new deck with brand new joists, I don't tell people that they should do that, but they should tape their beams and flat blocking. If it's a resurface, I think it is necessary.
Okay. So to play devil's advocate, if somebody was installing a pressure treated or a cedar deck that doesn't necessarily need to be oiled,
Mm-hmm.
do you tell them that they should probably maintain it if they want it to last longer?
No. I just tell them.
Get him a shot of Fireball. Like
If you, I'd puke. I'd be over and be like, boof. Yeah, I tell them they should maintain their deck surface, but you walk on the cedar and you walk on the pressure treated. You don't walk on your joists. Like it doesn't get anywhere. And
no,
the
but that's not
entire
the purpose of the tape. Isn't to
We're gonna
prevent people
fight.
from
I
walking.
can tell
on it.
already.
Well, it's sure beats fighting dudes with treasure trails.
So the joists, they only have a 1/4 inch of space that you actually see if you use a hidden fastener, right? Like, so say you use a Trex Hideaway clip or a Fibron Phantom clip.
Yep.
Most of that joist is actually even covered. And then the deck board covers the other 5 inches, and then the clip covers like it just about has no contact with air or with water.
Okay.
And so I don't think it's necessary.
So then why bother taping redecks if the water's not getting there in the first place?
Because a redeck is usually poked full of holes.
But if the water's not getting to the hole, if you think that the board's covering the hole and the clip's covering the hole,
Yeah. Yeah. then I don't think then we should dump it.
Okay,
No
yeah.
selling tape anymore.
Yeah. Here's my opinion on this. When I was still building decks, I had made this a standard thing. I was taping the joists. And the reason was because I believe it does work. And I believe the cost is almost inconsequential. It's in the overall scheme of the project, it's a very low cost to pay. It works out to, like, materials wise anyway, is about 50 cents a square foot to tape all your joists. And your deck that you're building is probably, if you're doing it yourself, you're paying $30 to $50 a square foot in materials. If you're hiring somebody, you're adding $20+ a square foot for that. So to add another 50 cents a square foot for just the materials or a few bucks for installed, very small price to pay to ensure that your framing lasts longer. So why not? I agree with you that when we're selling materials, just as like, because at the end of the day, we have to sell people what they want. We can give them all the information and make suggestions as much as we want, but we're not going to force anybody to do anything. We just have to make sure that we've given them enough information to make a good, informed decision.
Yes.
So it's not like it's not, if somebody says, no, I don't want to use the joist tape, it's like, well, then I'm not selling you any of the framing. Like, that's not happening.
Right.
That's not happening.
Yep.
So for that reason, I also say if it's brand new framing, it's like, it's up to you. It's not like, you don't have to do this.
Correct.
You also don't have to change the oil at your car at 3,000 miles. You can push it to 4 if you want. Is it a wise idea? Maybe not. But
I know some people that have original oil in their car. Just leave it in there.
First stuff, eh?
First stuff.
So I think it's a great idea. We always talk in the store about how we think it's pretty important to tape your beams, like your laminated lumber and your flat blocking and all those areas where water can collect quite easily and not dry out. We say that's probably a good idea to do that. But taping all your joists, we always say this is an optional thing. If it's me, I think it's a great idea. I think for the cost of it, you might as well do it. It makes sense. It does work. I don't know. There's no there's no guarantee of how many years it's going to add to the life of your framing, but it for sure in theory works. If the cause of something happening is water is getting on it and that's causing the rot, and you stop the water from getting on it, then obviously that's going to help it not rot.
Yep.
So it's effective. So I'm a big fan of taping joists. I know there's a lot of guys out there like, it doesn't matter, you don't need to do it. But their reference point is always that they've torn out these old decks, and that's the problem. It's not the same lumber as it was 30 years ago.
Correct.
It's not as dense.
Not even close.
It's like, it does not last as long. It is young growth lumber. It's more porous. It's not as dense. It takes in water easier and it rots faster.
Yep.
You see guys all the time saying they're going back out to jobs and replacing boards after 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years.
Yep.
It's like these things aren't lasting 30 years anymore.
They are not.
So the comments from the Instagram here are that we've got a comment from the deck dude that says, might as well tape them. You're putting a product meant to last forever on top of a product that will eventually rot. And so that's my thing too. Most of these products you're putting on there, it's like minimum 25-year warranty if you've got a good product.
Yep.
Some of them up to 50.
Yes.
Some of the PVCs are lifetime warranty.
Yep.
And you can't guarantee that your framing will last any of those amounts.
Correct.
If you do nothing, it's probably like 15 years. And again, this depends on the area and how much water you're getting and so on and so forth.
Yes.
Like rain's going to play into that. But
Yep.
Mintcon Deck says treatment isn't as good as it was on the 30-year-old deck. And that's exactly right. So the other part to that is we talked about the lumber. It's like it used to be old growth, tight ring stuff that just didn't absorb water like the new stuff does. And the treatments have changed.
Yeah. Because
So
everybody's all sensitive. They don't want to get
pump
sick
this
anymore.
stuff full of arsenic anymore.
Yep.
And so a few years back, the types of treatment that you were allowed to use changed, and you're not allowed to use it. This is the same with anything. With any like
Yep.
paints and oils, it's like all of a sudden these VOC rules came in, and like nothing works as well as it used to because it has to be safer, so on and so forth. And the treatment's no different. They had to remove some of the bad stuff out of it. Unfortunately, that bad stuff was really good at like
Preventing water.
preventing rot and insects and everything else. So for those reasons, I think the tape is a great idea. For those who think it's not, they're wrong.
You're wrong. You're wrong, Colonel Sanders.
Simcoe Deck says use steel framing. So if you want to just skip it all, you don't have to worry about tape at all, then
That
sure,
would work.
use steel
Yeah,
framing.
it's
Talking about a completely different price point.
Slightly more than $2.50 a square foot added to that. But
yeah, more like 2.5 times
So
the square foot. But
he's not.
it's
he's not
terrible.
wrong. Steel
No, he's not
framing
wrong.
is the way of the
That
future.
would be even better.
Yep.
Right? That's not gonna, doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about tape working or not working there. It's just like, it's not gonna rot.
Correct. Once the fasteners catch up, I think steel framing will go quite a bit better.
Well, Camo's supposed to have their self-tapping Camo edge clip, right?
Yeah. Well, that's it. Somebody's just got to make
And so
something that's more available.
That'll be a game changer right there.
Trex has one right now, but it's like for us, it's hard to get.
Yeah.
So
Next one. Because I said I wasn't going to give these numbers, didn't I, Bryce? Next one.
Number B.
Number B is track saws. Okay? And this made the list because it's always a freaking argument on these groups. And it was again this morning.
I have a really steady hand, so I don't need a track saw.
Yeah, exactly. All these guys who don't think they don't need track saws because they know how to cut straight lines, and the guys who bought them clearly don't. That's like, that's apparently the argument.
Yep.
I don't need a track saw. I've been cutting straight lines for 30 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you still using only a hacksaw to trim off your boards too?
No.
At some point, you bought a powered saw. And
Only because it was trendy.
You bought a drill and stopped turning a screwdriver.
Yeah. My arm was sore.
You don't even use a hammer anymore. Now you got a framing nailer.
Well, I'm starting to use hammers again. They're light enough and they drive hard.
But track saw, that's the line. I'm not buying that one.
Okay.
That one, like, it drives me nuts because the people who don't use them and don't believe in them are arrogant about it.
Yeah.
It's like as if it's they don't need one because they know how to cut straight lines. They're better carpenters than the guys who buy track saws. That's the position they take on this all the time. It's like pound sand. I don't care how steady of a hand you have. You're not cutting a line as straight as a track saw or as easy or as fast. It's just not going to happen. And I don't care. I'll bet anything.
I would agree with you that you won't do it as fast.
And now if you take setup time, you got to
that
get out the track and lay that down. Sure. You could probably get started faster with this. But the difference
track
here,
saw's faster.
The difference here is guys who are aiming for perfection and guys who are okay with good enough.
Yep.
And the guys who constantly slag track saws, they're just okay with good enough.
Yep.
They don't care to look down and eyeball their line and see if there's a slight wave in it. That doesn't bother them. But for some people, why wouldn't you make that line perfectly straight if you have the option to? And not only that, but you might have guys in your crew that you're asking to do these kinds of things like that. So you can cut straight lines, fine. What about the 3 other guys in your crew, the kid that's new? Like now he can do that job where he maybe couldn't have before.
It limits the process, right? If you're the only one who can cut a straight line, then you always have to cut the straight line.
Right.
If you get a track saw,
anybody can do it. It's foolproof.
The system is in place.
And the kid who just started with you, who's 17 years old, can
Straight
now
line.
cut a straighter line than your 30 years of experience.
Yep.
So keep on keeping on.
Right. Okay. So then
And you've never,
lose.
I have never, these guys are wrong.
They're
Absolutely.
wrong. Okay.
These guys, I have never, ever seen anybody buy a track saw and go back and be like, what a waste of money. 0 people I've ever seen complain about the track saw after they bought the track saw. Everybody's like,
That was the best money.
boy, I
I've
didn't
ever
think I
spent.
needed that, but I can't live without it now. I've got 2 now.
I believe there was a comment in there. Best investment I've made.
Yeah, Essler Construction says best investment he's ever made on a track saw. Most guys say that. They're like, that's the best money I've spent.
Yeah.
And many of these guys up until that point thought they didn't need one because they could cut a straight line. Yeah, we can all cut straight lines.
Not me. Not today. I couldn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't cut a straight
close
line.
one
if I
eye,
had
you
to
could
today.
for sure. And Mick Condeck says good enough also means not very good.
That's true.
Zing. So this one just fires me up every time because I just hate the arrogance around people thinking that I don't need it because I can cut a straight line. Everybody that's in those groups can cut a bloody straight line. Everybody's a good carpenter. That's why they're in the groups. They're deck building professionals. You're not the only one that can cut a straight line freehand. Everybody can do it. Nobody, 0 people can cut a perfect line freehand over a 20-foot run. So it's over.
It's over.
If you don't want to buy a track saw, fine. Build decks that are just not as good as the guy who has one.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Just
So
be like-
don't slag it.
I charge less.
Just admit that you just you're not as much of a perfectionist as the other guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's all there is to it. Number 3. This one always brings up people on both sides too.
You were not numbering these things.
No, it's okay. The first one didn't have a number. The second one was a letter, and the third one's a number. I like how this is going.
This is hard to follow on a good day. Please keep in mind that I'm not on a good day right now.
I think that's average for you.
Nope, you're wrong.
Like, you have more bad days than good days.
Maybe.
So, number 3A, planing joists. How do you feel about planing joists? I'm curious on this because I don't know that we've actually talked about this between you and I. I don't know which side you stand on this.
I hate doing it.
I think I do, but
I think it's a great practice, but I never did. I was like, yeah, well, they're different. Your deck has waves in it.
So you don't have a track saw.
I also didn't have
you're
a track saw.
Yeah. My decks are good enough.
They were not very good.
What's that guy's name that's in the meme? Steve Buscemi? Is that his name? Steve with his like eyes going the other way. It's like, looks good to me. Like, that's he doesn't have a track saw, that guy.
Nope.
Okay, so the argument is planing joists. So lots of guys do it. They'll install the decks and then they'll slide their level down it and be like, oh, that one caught. That one's a little bit higher than the rest of them. They'll take out their power planer and they'll zip that thing down. Get it flat with the rest.
Then I think you should tape the joist.
Sure.
Because now the treatment's gone.
Back to number F.
Yeah.
You should tape your joists.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
People are gonna think you are on Fireball right now.
That much is obvious. That much is obvious. If you're going to plane that off, you need to then tape the joist. Because, as any deck builder knows, the treatment is only skin deep. Much like Bryce's looks. Right?
Ooh.
It's only beautiful on the outside. Okay, let's not talk about the pimple vacuum. Oh, yeah. The mics probably didn't pick that up. We were going to get mics for you.
He has one.
Oh, what number are you? That one?
Number 3.
Oh, there he is. Welcome to the show.
The sultry
Producer
voice.
Bryce is in here now. And so he made a zinger. He made fun of my nose after I did the pimple or the pore vacuum on my nose.
Boy, that
was skin deep.
Did you throw
I
that?
pulled some of my innards to the surface of my nose on that one. Actually, that was much more than skin deep.
Did you throw that thing out?
No, I've used it since.
No, you didn't.
Not on the tip of my nose, but like, yeah, I've pulled it out again and be like, wonder if this was just like user error, if I can pull this up. And
It was.
a couple times I've done it, and
Or he's gotten better at makeup.
that could be that too. I wish.
All
I
right.
can't hide it. Anyway, so no.
Planing joist.
Simcoe Dexon here says no planer. He doesn't like the idea of planing.
Yeah, so the other option is you can sort your lumber and then you maybe don't have to.
Correct. Yeah.
I
That
didn't
is
do
the
either.
best option. Yeah.
I didn't sort my lumber and I didn't use a planer.
Yeah. Good enough.
Good enough.
Looks good to me.
It does. That's what it is. Looks good to me.
So I agree that planing joists should be a last resort. That said, I'm not super against it like some people tend to be. And so if you install something and yeah, exactly. That's the picture. You can't see it on the podcast, but looks good to me. But I don't see the harm in doing it. So if you go and install a deck and you wait a couple days before you put down decking or something, the lumber starts to dry and it may become uneven after you've installed it, even if it was pretty good when you put it down. Or your beams, your laminated beams, maybe not flush at the tops anymore because you flushed them when you did them, but they dried a little bit or they shifted or whatever. And so there's some instances where maybe you want to plane those down, I think, and I don't see the harm in doing it.
Yep.
The argument is you're zipping off the treated portion of it, and the other argument is these boards are going to dry and shrink. So you'll plane them all flat now, and it doesn't matter because they're all going to shrink at different rates anyway.
That's right.
But that argument also applies if you don't plane them. They're all going to shrink at different rates or whatever. So there's no harm in planing them down flat today. Yes, they may shrink at a different rate. Anyway, I don't see the problem with it. I do agree that like grading your lumber is a good practice. You should do that. And then that eliminates most of the planing you're going to have to do.
Yep.
If not all. So, but sometimes there is a need to still pull out the planer and plane it down, in my opinion. But if you're going to do that, retreat it and tape it. The reason I don't see a problem with it is because when I was building, I was taping the joist anyway.
Right.
So it could have been.
It looks like you're wrong. Everybody
finding
here
it.
says you're wrong. So
What do we got here?
Today-
Who's saying precision construction, never have to plane or grade steel? Morning, fellas. So another comment for steel.
Steel
We've
framing.
eliminated two of the three topics here just by using some steel framing instead.
Yep.
Simcoe says any crown within a couple days, weight on it flattens out. Simcoe Dex also says precision is on to something.
Steel framing.
Yep. So
Okay.
there we are.
I guess you can draw a line through the rest of your list and we'll just say
Just use steel framing
just
and the
use
rest of them are
steel
done.
Framing.
Okay.
They're right.
Next one. Bullet point 6. Waterfall corners. So this one I debated whether I should even put on here, but I thought maybe it's worth the conversation because it's a trend that's happening right now. And what I mean by this is on the corners of the fascia especially, but anywhere sometimes that you've got like where you would traditionally miter something on the flat. Sorry, maybe that's on the vertical more.
There you
maybe it's
go.
the right plane that I'm talking about here. Where guys are now
On the Y plane.
V-notching the back of the board, heating it up and folding the corner over. It looks fantastic. Do you think that, like, should people be doing that or not?
No. because it makes my work look worse.
Okay.
They're showing up. They're showing.
I don't
they're
know
showing
that
off.
anybody's. First of all, you aren't building decks.
Oh, right.
But even if you were, it's not like people are comparing yours to theirs because you're here and they're there. But
Yeah.
but no, you don't like just
I think
whatever.
I think it looks good. I don't know. I don't have an opinion on that one. I have no dog in that fight.
Okay.
It looks great. I don't know that I would do it. It seems like a lot of work to me.
Right. And so
And
that's
it's
the
like,
argument that I was going to get to.
I don't know that I want to do that. I'd rather just put 2 pieces of board on there and be like, there you go.
Yeah. I think it looks fantastic, and I feel like this is one of the things that I would have done for sure. I would have been like, oh yeah, that for sure. But to step back and think about it, should you do it? Probably not. It takes way more time. So if you're going to adjust your rates and charge more to do it, fine.
Yep.
But all you're doing at this point when you're playing around with this is costing yourself money. And I don't think that the homeowners are going to appreciate it as much as you and your Instagram community are.
Yeah, but
They're not gonna
You're
care.
not doing it for the homeowners. Everybody that's doing that is doing it for the IG, man.
Exactly. So that's, I guess, my point is that you're spending time and money just for a little bit of pat on the back on Instagram more than the homeowners like, boy, I'd have been pissed if you would have done it the other way. Like if you would have just mitered that, right? Like the homeowners don't care.
They don't.
So should you be doing it? Yeah, whatever. If it makes you happy and you want to make a cool Instagram post, knock your boots off.
But
But if you get caught doing too many of these little glamour
is that
things,
the saying? Knock your boots off? I don't think
knock
so.
your boots in. Knock your boots.
Fill your boots.
Fill your boots. Knock your socks.
Knock your socks off.
Fill your socks.
Fill your socks.
Fill your socks. So that's my opinion. Like, do it, I guess, if you're okay eating the cost on it. Like, eventually it's not going to be cool anymore. Much like pounding plugs into a hole is like, whatever. We've all seen it. We've all done it.
Yep.
So whatever. Do it a few times. Post your Instagram pictures. But if you're not charging for that extra level of detail, then you shouldn't be doing it. Like, that's the long-term answer.
Yeah. So the argument could be made that you just want to build better. It does look better, right? Like when you do that,
for sure, it looks better.
better.
Yeah, it looks better.
And so your argument with the track saw was do the track saw because you're trying to be a perfectionist, and it's like,
but that we also said was faster.
Yeah.
And anybody could do it. There's an efficiency to that. There's
Okay.
not to.
no efficiency to the waterfall corner.
I don't think so.
But why not just build it better? And there is no efficiency to grading your lumber, and there's no efficiency to planing it down.
Well,
So if you're talking
maybe.
about like building better,
Other than you
then
could look at
build
that
better.
from a callback perspective. Like
Maybe.
if your deck's all wavy when you built it because you didn't pay attention to grading your lumber and you get a callback, well, there's an efficiency.
Then you're up
Like
shit
you're-
creek. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about
So-
10% off? See you later.
The question for this, and it just came up through the Instagram from MitCon Decks, is how long is that going to last? And so that's always a question too. And I think that for the most part, where people are doing this is on short little pieces, and it's usually on the on the in line with the grain or the length of the board. And it's so these boards don't expand and contract widthwise hardly at all.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're at risk of that's like breaking. But if you were to take a piece of fascia 12 feet long and do that, or maybe a
Oh,
deck board as a
yeah.
thing and do that around a corner, and it's going to run 10 feet this way and 10 feet this way, and you did a little waterfall, I believe that for sure is going to crack over time, and then you're no better off. You might
We
as
should
well
do
just
that.
mitered it.
We should actually put one outside. There is no climate as shitty as
Sure.
ours.
Yeah.
So
And we've got some boards out in the back that are unsellable condition, so we should test that. So I do think on the shorter corner pieces, you're probably pretty safe. It's likely not going to break. But on longer pieces, I think there's a pretty good chance that it will break, especially on PVC products because they're very hard caps on them.
Yes.
They're not gonna flex at all.
Yep.
If they try to expand and contract at all, that line's going to crack.
yeah, you have a better chance with the HDPE.
Eric Teru says, that looks good when you nail it. Looks like shit when you're off.
He's
So,
right.
yeah, much like a regular miter. Looks great if you do it. So if you do it well, and it looks like crap if you don't.
Yep.
So some good feedback on that one too. See, I thought this episode was going to have some.
We got some
Interactivity.
We got some
It's
people.
Okay, number 37, using screws for framing. Now, this was a very hot topic a little bit ago here, and there was people on both sides of it again. And it started because there was a conversation about using screws for decking, and some guy made a comment and said, like, I care so much about my jobs, I even use screws for the framing. And another guy was like, you're a hack. And then he actually took a screenshot of that, made a new post, and was like, guys like this are a shame to the industry. Like, he really went after him
Wow.
about using screws for framing. And so then I think, to his surprise, a lot of people came in and disagreed and were like, we also use screws for framing.
We're hacks
It's
too.
all, I guess we're all hacks.
We're all hacks.
And I commented too, and it's like, I've framed many decks with just screws. I've done them both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Call me a hack. I'm good.
Yeah, but you owned a fancy track saw.
I'm okay with that.
So, and a planer.
Yeah.
So you're not a hack.
Right.
I mean, you never did
Right?
a miter, a waterfall corner.
Yeah.
so-
I only made sure the stuff on top looked good, though. My screws were snapping off left, right, and center underneath.
Yeah.
So, yes, you should frame with nails. That's like, nobody's going to tell you that nails are not the right fastener for the job when it comes to framing. The argument is whether screws are also okay. And I think that, and when we're talking these screws, we're talking like just traditional kind of ceramic coated number
as
8,
long
number
as
10 screws
Yeah.
or something, right?
As long as they're a coated screw.
Yeah.
If you're using a construction screw in treated lumber, then you are a hack.
Yeah, you got to use the right screw for exterior use and treated lumber,
Right.
for sure. But the argument here that they were trying to make is like the age-old argument that anybody who's ever heard this term before likes to bring up and use all the time, is if they're some sort of fastener and steel expert, is that they don't have the proper shear strength, which is true. They have less shear strength than a nail.
I've said that, but
But how many?
to be totally honest, I have absolutely no idea what the shear strength of a screw is or the shear strength of a nail. I have no idea.
Right.
But I tell people that a nail has more shear strength.
And when it comes to shear applications, then that's a good argument.
Yeah.
If it's like joist hangers,
Yeah.
that's in like it's in shear, you need to have shear capacity on that thing, then yeah, you got to use a proper fastener there. My argument to that was name all the spots when you're framing your deck where the fastener is in a shear capacity. Like where is it? Where's the shear? Your midspan blocking?
No.
No. Your rim joist?
Nope.
Maybe, I guess, but not really. You're telling me if you throw in 5 screws into the end of that 2x10, then it's gonna at some point that rim board's gonna shear off? Unlikely.
Unlikely.
And where else are you using the screws? Your joists into your beam? Is that really in shear?
No.
You're laminating a beam together. Is that in shear? No, I don't really think so.
Yeah, if you pick it up properly with your post
If it's
underneath.
supported underneath of the post,
Yeah.
then where is it shearing to?
Yep.
So where are the fasteners in shear? And so the argument there,
The hangers.
One guy tried exactly, and so you're not that you need to use a proper fastener. You need to use a hanger nail or structural screw for that, strong drive screw for that.
Mhm.
So that was my argument. Is that, and I said I've used those interchangeably when framing, and I liked screws more because they pulled things tighter.
Yes.
So I like that.
Yep.
And I've never ever had a call back for framing shearing or coming loose because the screws are snapping. It just doesn't happen. So the argument this one guy made said that, well, lateral shifting of the deck could snap the screw. And it's like, yeah, you're right. A screw would snap if the deck was racking a bunch before a nail would.
Yes.
Why is your deck racking all over the place?
You had a big dance party.
You didn't build it right in the first place. It wasn't the fastener's fault. You should have braced that thing up a bit better.
Maybe.
Stabilize it or something. So that's my argument. And the other part of that is that, like, you're not just going to put number 8 screws into everything. Like when I was building, I had plenty of GRKs run through these things too. Like the beams are always like maybe screwed them together, but then I went back and drove them full of GRKs. So there's additional things to that. But on an average deck, like we sell decking to homeowners that generally don't have framing nailers. We sell them screws all the time. We've never ever, like we've probably got our handprint on 5,000 decks over the last few years, and nobody's come back and be like, the screws are snapping
Only
in
on
my
the,
framing.
Yeah.
In
Only
PVC
on the
decking,
Only
maybe,
on the
right?
PVC decking. Yeah.
So it's just for the most part a non-issue. Now that said, if you're in an earthquake zone where doesn't matter how you build that thing, it might get some shake to it, then yeah, maybe you should follow the code of using the nails in those things.
Yep.
But for the most part, I think screws are just fine. That's my argument. So
Well, lots of people talking about this one.
okay, yeah, we got some action here with this. Let's scroll back here and see where we're at. Mitcon Deck says, I think you need both screws and nails for best results. And so that often, more times than not, was how we rolled with things. We'd have the framing nailers out for the stuff we wanted to slap something together quick. For me, it was a speed thing. It was like nailing the beam together. Yeah,
I
do that
like
with a
spiking
nailer,
the beam together,
right?
yeah.
Because you can do that fast. Screws take a long time. That said, I think the finished results both work. But if you ever look at a beam screwed together versus a beam just nailed together, when they start to dry,
Yep.
the screws hold it tighter.
Yep.
So anyway, Eric Teru says it's not uncommon to see deck screws in hangers. That is absolutely in his market. I think in every market.
That's every market.
That's the first sign of a guy who didn't know what he was doing.
Yep. He didn't have a track saw, that guy.
Didn't have a track saw, no.
Or a planer.
And Eric also says we also see deck screws are rusted out on framing. So I've seen that on both, right? On nails and screws. It's just a coating. Both of them just have a coating. It's a galvanized coating or it's a ceramic coating on the screw.
Correct.
And if that wears off, which quite often it does when it's being driven in,
Yes.
especially on nails, what can happen when the striker hits the head of the nail, it can sometimes chip the coating and then you see rust. Might be okay inside the lumber, but you see rust on the outside or
Yes.
something.
Yeah.
And the screws, sometimes if you ever back a screw out, depending on the quality of screw and how dense lumber was, sometimes you'll see that the ceramic coating did strip as the screw is driving in. So like in both scenarios, you can have some degradation of the fastener over time because it's just a coating. And if it wears off, it will not fail, but it'll rust or
Yeah.
whatever.
Just like Where's that?
Your wife wants to know how you're feeling.
Great.
She's in the Instagram today.
She knows exactly how I'm feeling.
She wanted to make sure you actually made it here probably. Precision Construction is a big comment. I haven't pre-read it here. Simpson says that their number 9 screw has more load capacity than 10D nail, and number 10 SD had more load capacity than a 16. Plus, the SD screws have been designed for bend like a nail rather than shear. Yeah. So for sure, and so one of the Simpson guys actually came in and cleared this all up for everybody and said like, the way these screws are made, and I don't remember the process, whatever, like the screws that are meant for shear applications are made differently than a traditional, like heated and cooled, like carbon steel screw.
Hardened
Yeah,
screw.
hardened screw, right? And so so his point was, listen, this isn't like, these aren't catch-all phrases. A nail doesn't always have better shear strength than a screw just because it's a nail.
Yes.
And a screw doesn't always have weaker just because it's a screw.
Yep.
It depends on how they're made.
Okay.
So Eric says, galvanized nails are hard to find here. Thankfully, I have a local supplier in Regina.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We'll ship you pallets of pass load galvanized ring shank nails.
He's on me about getting a pallet to him right now, actually.
Well, get on it.
I was
one
going
thing to do after this.
Yep.
And then 100 more things after that. And last one is
Like sleep.
premium yard and garages. Says, try ring shank glue-coated nails for those beams. They will hold them super tight. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, for sure. I think that's the default thing. Use ring shank.
Yes.
Don't use smooth nails. I assume when we're talking nails that everybody's using ring shank. Maybe I'm wrong.
Here's the thing. The ring shank are really hard to pull out of your hand, though. The
Yeah.
smooth ones, they just like in they go and then out they come.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
Both nails I've put in my hand have been smooth ones and they come out super easy.
Right. How about the screws that you've put in your hand? Have you pulled those straight out?
I haven't gone far enough in. So it's just like I nick the edge usually.
Perfect. Eric wants his pallet stuff first. First thing you do, his pallet.
On it.
Number 19, clips. Hidden clips.
Block.
Hidden clips versus screwing the boards down. That's where I'm going with this. The arguments are on both sides. While the hidden clips are hidden, they're more hidden, and they're good enough
Yeah.
as far as holding power. And then there's the people who say, no, you should be screwing your decking down because it adds structure to the structure, which is true. The deck will be stronger if you screw all your decking down.
Yeah. Then it doesn't rack a bunch when you're having your dance parties.
Right. It's like screwing drywall to your framing. It just stiffens everything. It stops it from being able to twist or rack or whatever. But what's the payoff here? Then then it's visibly not as nice. So then you have to decide.
Well, what if you did camel screws
Sure.
in the side of the board?
Would you consider those? Is that a hidden clip or is that a face screw?
No. That's a hidden
Neither.
screw.
It's neither. So honestly though, that's a good point. The camel screws are fantastic because they're the best of both worlds. They're fairly hidden, yet they also give you that screw down positive contact to the joist, which stiffens the entire structure. So on taller decks, like ones that I built that were up in the air, I would often use camel screws for that reason.
Oh yeah, you Craig jigged one as well, didn't you?
That one wasn't as tall, but yeah, I've Craig jigged some decks, and the camel screws, if it's way up in the air and it's sitting on stilts and I don't want to put knee bracing in or V bracing because you're doing a soffit or whatever the reason might be, screwing the whole deck down often will give you enough structure to avoid having to do those things.
Yeah.
The clips would not have.
Correct.
And so that was the point of using the camo on those situations. So I think both are fine. If you want to screw, I'm not going to tell anybody they're wrong on either side of this. If your customers are okay with face screws, colored face screws, or plugging the deck, and you're okay with that extra time doing that, then fine, knock your socks
I
off.
think that looks awful.
And in some markets, that's just how they do it.
It
Here,
looks terrible.
we would be hung up. We would be hung from a tree, hanged from a tree.
Sure.
if we sold somebody face screws and we're like, we would get a call. They'd be like, you didn't send me any clips,
Yes.
but for some reason you sent me this box with all these screws. What are these for? Like they wouldn't even know that was what you would plan to do.
Correct.
And they'd be like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna screw my deck down.
Yeah.
So clips are the big thing here. You just need to pay a little bit of extra attention to making sure your framing is not going to rack a bunch, which you don't want anyway because all your screws are going to blow out.
Yep.
So I guess my position on this, clips are great. I wouldn't hesitate to use clips. There may be some scenarios where you want.
The only thing I don't like
a little
about
bit
the clips is that, they don't, like, they kind of just clamp the board down. And so the board can move a little bit. It can, like, slide back and forth. And so then your reveal against your picture frame isn't the same.
Yeah, depending on the clip, right?
Yeah.
So
it can strip out, like the screw can strip out. So then the board kind of rattles. But whatever. That argument can be made for screws as well.
Yeah, there's different qualities of clips. I know that Camo had put out that chart that showed the lateral hold strengths of all different types of clips that are in the market.
Yes.
And their new edge clips were like, I don't know if this is the exact number, but like 3 times more holding power than the clip that we would sell them most of next.
Yep.
And so they're both hidden clips, but the way that one's designed has a ton more holding power than your traditional just vinyl biscuit clip.
Yep. Good.
So,
okay.
Number G.
What about Eric's got a comment on there? It's a good one too.
Eric has
We've
a
seen
comment on
this.
here. Okay, let's see this. Eric Taru says, I saw a local landscaper use 16 finish nails,
16 gauge.
16 gauge finish nails to install boards and posted it to Instagram.
Yep. Glued and nailed.
Yeah, want to talk about that? So that's a common thing. Like maybe that should have been on the list. Can we come back to that at the end, or do you want to tackle that now? Since he's talking about it, let's tackle it now.
Sure.
No numbers.
We're gonna put. What?
Yeah.
No, this is letter L.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a great one. And in
It's so
some markets,
gross.
I'm guessing some people are gonna be like, "What are you talking about? People do that?" Here, we catch it all the time,
It's
and I don't know who the hell's doing it.
When I see it, I face palm.
Yeah, it's just, what are you doing?
Can't you just use PL and spike it down? Sure, you can.
This
You
is
do
what's
whatever you
happening.
want.
This is what's happening. They're using a bloody brad nailer to nail down some composite decking, and they will usually pair that with a bead of construction adhesive between the board and the joist. They'll lay down a bead, put the deck boards on, pop it down with brad nails,
Looks good.
finish nails maybe. And here's the problem.
I'm disappointed in those people.
Here's the problem with that. This stuff expands and contracts. You want to talk about shear strength? Those nails will bend, but they will eventually break
Yes.
because they're the size of a toothpick.
Yep.
If you're using a 16 gauge and smaller if you're using an 18 gauge. They're just going to snap off. The other problem is the construction adhesive rarely holds up over time
Yes.
because often these products that you're putting on top have a smooth surface on the back, and the bond's going to break. It'll stick to the wood, no problem. But in a couple of years of expansion and traction in these markets, it's just the glue is going to break.
Yep.
That's a guarantee. It's just a matter of how long it takes.
Yep.
And so now your pin's snapped and your glue is broken its bond, and there's nothing holding your board down anymore. The third problem is I would put money on the fact that the guys are brad nailing and finish nailing these decks down are not using stainless nails. They're just using interior grade
Mm-hmm.
electroplated zinc, whatever, interior grade finish nails. So those are going to, if they don't snap, they'll rust off
Yes.
in the treated lumber.
Yep.
So there's in no way is there an argument for doing this.
No.
And I'm sad to see that it's happening in other markets. I thought that was just something a bunch of hacks here were doing.
Nope.
That one drives me nuts because
Yeah,
that is
look
so
at-
improper.
Now you pissed him off. Now he's all grumpy again.
I don't like it. It's a terrible, terrible way to install decking. So don't do that. That's not even an argument. That's just a straight up don't do it. Okay, so where do we get here? That's him saying that. And then Premium Yard and Garages says, make sure to put a little PL under the deck boards before you brad nail them. Laughing. Okay, I was like, oh boy. Is he advocating for that? Yeah, put a little glue in there and that'll work. So, Cascade's here, and he says hi. Okay, now let's get back to our regular scheduled programming. Number 26. The use of end cut treatment. And it's funny that this is an argument too, because I think like I'm pretty insistent that you should be doing this. The only
Cash
time
grab.
the only time I think you shouldn't or couldn't or may not want to do this is if you're G-taping the whole deck anyway and the water's not getting to the exposed untreated cuts anyway, then sure, maybe you don't have to treat your cuts. But this in a lot of markets, this isn't even a known thing that people are using this. And often when this conversation comes up, somebody will pull out the instructions for using different brands of treated lumber, like whether it's MicroPro Sienna or Yellowwood or whatever, and it's be like, it's in the instructions, you guys, that your cuts are supposed to be treated with an end cut again.
Yeah.
Or else you'd lose your warranty on the lumber, because some of these lumbers have a warranty on them. You have to treat your cuts. Because otherwise, why use treated lumber in the first place if you're just going to hack it all up and leave it all untreated anyway?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the argument there. But some guys, and I don't know that it's like a resistance to it as much of like, I don't believe that's a good practice. It's more like, I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know there was a product like that or that we were supposed to be doing that. In some markets, it's just like an unknown thing. Yeah. So I think you should be. The idea is when you cut your lumber, your treated lumber, again, we talked about this earlier, that the treatment is only skin deep on that stuff. So when you cut it, you're exposing an untreated core, and the end grain of the board like that is the most susceptible to taking up water in the first place. Mm-hmm. And so you're supposed to paint on a sealant or a treatment so it doesn't soak up any more water, or helps to not do it. Or you can tape it. But a very common area is like stair stringers, because you're hacking out a ton of material on both planes, vertical plane and horizontal plane, and water's going to sit there for sure. So you got to treat those.
Yes.
Or tape them.
You could tape them. That's how I felt about it. I was like, went on a lot longer than it probably needed to.
Okay. Eric says, I've had a deck builder tell me that PL was great for contour boards, and he pulls out a tube of interior stuff.
Yeah.
So there's some good guys doing some bad things out there, right?
Yep.
When that's probably, it's probably who's putting that stuff down. The guys who are nailing it are probably mostly interior guys they're not, I can for sure tell you they're not professional deck builders, because I don't know anybody that would call themselves a full-time professional deck builder that would ever do that.
Yeah.
It's got to be guys, like they're carpenters, but they're generally interior guys, and they're like, well, this is how you put shit on. Like this is how you put baseboards on, this is how you put...
You just nail it on.
This is how you put flooring on. So...
The other thing about the end cut treatment, we'll go back to that one.
Number 26,
is the smell of it used to be so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't want to do it because it stunk.
It was terrible stuff. Terrible stuff.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff that's out there still is. It's same, they haven't improved it. It's just like we don't use it. We don't stock it anymore. But you get a little bit of that in your hands, and you would reek for 3 days. There was no getting it off.
And you
just
couldn't
smell
wash
like
it
you
off.
took a bath in diesel.
And you can't wash it off because it's designed to not, like, it repels water.
Right.
And
so it doesn't come off your hands. Like soap, like once it's on you, it's on you. And that was when I was building, my biggest complaint for my wife. She could tell from when I pulled up outside before I even got in the house that I was working with treated lumber that day.
Yep.
It was bad. And so we, a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago, switched to a brand of end cut treatment called Protect-A-Cut, made by Sanson, that doesn't stink like that.
It doesn't smell at all.
Yeah, it's got like a mild like clay/Play-Doh-y smell.
Yeah,
it's kind of clay based. It's fantastic.
Yep.
And the second we moved to that, my wife stopped complaining about me coming home and smelling like I'd taken a bath.
Then she just complained about other things.
Yeah, they didn't stop.
What time you came home?
Yeah.
Your frequency of coming home.
Yeah, where's your man scent anymore? I know I complained about it, but I kind of liked it. So this stuff is great. Use it. It also doesn't wash off easy. Like it goes on and it stays on. That's the point again. You can't wash it off your hands.
Yep.
Like it takes some work. So it works just as well, I think, as the turpentine-y smelling stuff. But it will save your relationship though. So it's good stuff.
There you go.
Eric says the guy he was referring to was a pro deck builder. So let's just remove pro. He was a deck builder.
Yep.
He was a good enough guy. Premier Yard and Design and Graduate says maybe this pro deck builder upgraded from PL to duct tape.
To PL. He upgraded to PL from duct tape.
Oh, yeah.
He was using duct tape before and then found this really good product called PL, and now he uses that.
Yeah, the guys that did the duct tape, those were hacks.
Yep.
But this whole PL and Bradnell thing.
Got her. That's the
Nailed
best.
it. Literally. Next up. This one's going to be, here's an argument here. Using piles under a deck versus just setting it on grade. So I don't know that this practice is super common in all markets, but it is common in many markets. And I've seen these things referred to as cottage blocks or slabs or like deck levelers, adjusters. There's all sorts of names for like this setup that you can put a deck on the ground instead of in the ground. Because in many markets, it's code compliant to not use piles depending on a variety of factors. So in our market specifically, in Regina and even Saskatoon, you're allowed to use these on-grade options and not use an in-ground pile if your deck surface is less than 6 feet above grade. However, if you go down the highway, 40 minutes to Moose Jaw, the rule is over 2 feet, you have to use piles.
Okay.
Under 2 feet, you can't use... Sorry, under 2 feet, you can use the grade things, and above that, you need piles.
Okay.
What's your thoughts on that?
And
just-
indifferent.
Because this is not a common practice in other markets, let's explain what this is. What the practice is when they're doing this is they put down like a 16 by 16 inch slab, like sidewalk block, 2 inches thick or around there. And then on top of that, the deck just sits on that. Often in our market with an adjustable leveler of sorts, like a telepost kind of application thing, like a short little tiny telepost.
Yeah.
So you can adjust the deck when you have frost heave or soil settling or whatever. You can adjust it after.
Yeah.
So that's the idea, as opposed to driving or drilling or setting a pile on the ground. So go ahead.
I'm indifferent.
Okay.
It's like, how do I explain this? So if the deck is going to move, then let it move, and build so that you can plan to adjust it. Because if you're not going to drill a concrete pile twice the depth of your frost, then the pile isn't working.
Right.
And so don't put in the effort. If you're going to drill an 8-foot deep pile in our climate, then it doesn't do anything anyways. So just put a slab and adjuster down.
Sure. Yeah.
If you're going to put a 14-foot deep pile, then that's the right application. But nobody does that.
Right.
So either do the right pile with a 14-foot deep concrete pile, or a helical screw pile. Insert installer there, whoever it is, doesn't matter to me either. Yep. And if you're not doing either of those, then just do the slab, because you wasted your time anyways.
Right. So yeah, I would. The asterisk to this, I guess, is anytime you put a roof structure on it, you need piles regardless.
In-ground
here
contact.
too, right? It could be 2 feet off the ground or a foot off the ground. If you put a roof on it, it needs, for wind lift purposes, needs to be an in-ground pile. It needs to be attached to the ground. But so in our market, so I don't think that either of us would disagree that the pile is the best way to go.
Correct.
Like you should do and we're big fans of helical screw piles. So you should do those on your deck. However, in our market, if we were to not sell people decks that refuse to use a helical screw pile, our sales would probably be 8% of what they are.
Yep.
Because the majority of decks built in this market are built just with the slab option. Because the majority of decks aren't that tall.
Yeah,
Like,
they're
the majority of decks are like
2 feet, 3 feet high.
ledgers are typically 3 to 4 feet off the house, and the city's fine, and the codes are approved, and the inspectors are fine with these on-grade applications. So,
And it's cost effective. Like a screw pile is $300. The slab setup,
levelers 30
30
bucks.
It was like $30.
So yeah, and I guess my opinion is,
Then
they're
I could
fine
sell
for the
them
ground.
joist tape.
I don't know that I'm crazy about
And
going
end cut.
like pushing that 6 foot marker, but like the under 4 feet, that's fine. I mean, you're in your backyard, you got a windbreak with your fence and everything else. The odds of getting wind underneath that.
It's
deck
hardly
to lift
windy
it
here.
are Hardly. If there's anywhere that these decks are going to lift, it's here.
This-
Like if there's anywhere
this
that
year.
these things shouldn't be allowed, it's probably here.
Yep.
Because the wind this year is unbelievable. Like it's always windy here because we got no natural wind breaks.
There's a tree by Moose Jaw.
Yeah, it kind of redirects it around Moose Jaw and blasts it up the backside of Regina. Boy, that sounded like, hey?
I thought maybe it was just me because
Some guys are
fireball.
hitting the rewind button. We're like, what did he just say? Blasting it up the backside of the Regina? So it is what it is. Some markets are okay with this, and it's hard to say like you shouldn't do it like that when the city and when they're saying it's code approved and you're allowed to do it, then people are going to do it.
Yeah.
So
Yep. I think it's okay. You could argue that the 16 by 16 slab is actually a great way to disperse weight. Like if you're going to put a little,
Spreads it fine. Yep.
like a little Pilex 40-inch screw pile in, 50-inch screw pile, you're going to twist that in. There's like a 6-inch disc on that thing.
Yep.
There's no chance that holds as much weight downward as the 16 by 16 slab. It's not even close.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
like
think
the
I don't
surface
think
area.
the knock on the adjustable on grade option is that it doesn't spread the weight effectively, like can't hold the weight. It's
Yeah.
more that it's like it's not attached to the ground.
Yeah.
So if you were to get a massive wind underneath, could the deck lift? And it's like I've not seen it here
Yeah.
that's happened. And we've had like you get gale winds here that'll flip a camper over a house.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard of
100K.
anybody really like lose their deck.
100K wins every
So,
year
yeah.
at some point.
So anyways, that's enough on that one. Like piles are the way to go here. If it's approved by your building department and you're okay using it and you need to save some money, then it's an acceptable thing to do in many places. Number Roman numeral, actually. This one's a Roman numeral, V1, which is 6. Is that right?
Yeah. Rocky
Okay.
6.
So mitering your picture frame on composite decks.
It's the worst idea ever.
Okay. Number 7. Is that all there is to that?
Well, I figured if I was super definitive in my answer, then
Then we could just move on, yeah.
Yeah.
So Premier, just before we move on to that, Premier Yard and Garages says, I have this argument with my customers all the time about piles. And New England Decking says, just did my first pile job. I'm a little bit confused with that one. Like, why? Why is it the first pile job? Because you normally build without piles just on grade?
Maybe he
Or
meant
because you're a new builder?
maybe
or?
he just did like a pile driver. Maybe he like an old wrestling move from WWE.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Lit
Right?
up as kids. So the miter thing. You're anti-miter. Is that
No.
safe to say?
No. I like miters the most because I'm an interior guy who Brad nails my deck down. And so I mitered crown molds and I mitered like casings and stuff. So I miter. That's what I do.
Okay.
I like that look. And so I would build a deck out of wood or
And then I caulk it.
And
I just
then-
caulk the joint,
Mhm.
make it look a little bit tighter, hit it with
Oh.
the spray bomb, and
what's the grease ball? I used to just like a little bit of grease ball dap in the miter and paint it up.
yeah,
Good to go.
perfect. Yeah, looks great. Not my problem once I leave here. So this is a personal preference thing. I don't think this is right or wrong.
Change my phone number. Good luck getting me to come back. I
Yeah.
got a new phone.
I don't know that there's a right or wrong in this. It's just a common argument of people saying like butt joints look like crap versus guys saying like, yeah, maybe you don't like the look of them as much as a miter today, but I can promise you my butt joints in a year are going to look better than your miters.
That's right.
That's the argument. And so I love the idea of doing the butt joints. I think it just looks different. It doesn't look bad. I think it just looks different. It's still a cool look.
Yeah.
It's a different look.
Yeah.
The knock is that you've got to do something with
You're
that
out of
exposed
time.
end.
You have 9 seconds. in
Oh,
your
we're
phone.
going to reconnect on the Instagram here, folks. So come on back. Usually use concrete footers. Just had piles installed for the first time. I assume he means screw piles.
Yeah.
He did helical screw piles for the first time.
Must have.
So, anyways, as far as the miters go, we gotta restart.
Delete that?
this.
You want to delete that?
I don't know. You want me to share it? Bryce, you should come over and do this for me so I can talk. Bryce is gonna fix that up. Needs a title and a description, and then we can post it if we want to, and then restart the IG. So, the miters. There's no doubt that everybody loves the look of the miter when you first
When
do
you
it,
first do it.
and
It
you
looks
nail
so
it.
good.
It looks so good. The problem is that there's no way to keep those things closed. I don't care who you are or what you do.
Yeah.
You've tried.
A composite
A lot of guys have
composite
tried.
ones are tough, right?
Yeah. And even PVC ones, like over time, they are going to come
Are yours?
apart.
Did yours open up?
Like they're holding up pretty good, but they're definitely not as tight as they were when they were installed. But some of them are only open like maybe a heavy 16th. They've
Yeah.
opened a bit,
Okay.
but that was after like 2 vinyl biscuits and
Yeah, you
PVC
put some serious
glue
effort into
and
those.
like a dozen screws within 6 inches of the miter, and like did everything you could. And they're not full run boards.
Yeah,
either.
they're
It's like
12 foot.
6-footer meets an 8-footer or something, and they've still opened a little tiny bit over the last couple of years, 3 years. So, in spite of the bet, like what else are you gonna do?
Would you do it again?
Would I miter again?
Yeah. If you built that deck today, would you miter those corners?
No. And in fact, I'm gonna change that. I'm going to I've got some boards. I'm gonna change it
Okay.
on that bottom. So
So I think we know where you stand then.
I had started on my lower tier. I had actually done some of the picture frame and mitered and did everything I could. And then I left the back 2 sides, I hadn't done anything. And by the time I got around to doing those ones, I had already decided that I wasn't
The
going to miter
next
those
day,
ones.
right?
Yeah, that was like a few months later, maybe even the next year. But I was like, you know what? I'm not going to, I give up. That's my last effort there. And I'm going to put these ones in with butt joints, and I'm just going to replace those little 4-foot pieces that I had mitered, whatever, and do butt joints in those
Okay.
too.
So there you go.
I've given up on that. Now, if you're going to use a product that doesn't expand and contract, like the Decorators E Ovations line stuff that has very, very minimal expansion and contraction, knock your socks off. Go ahead and miter them.
Fill your socks.
Fill your socks. Knock your boots off.
Knock your boots off.
Then fine. But just like, as long as you're aware of what you're doing here, it's just, you want to make sure that the customers are aware of what's going to happen.
That's what I think, too.
Because you're going to get callbacks on these open miters. And it's like, you can avoid that by just butt joining in the first place. They're not going to call about a butt joint that you put your 3/16 inch gap between, just like all the boards, and that thing opens to a 1/4 inch or whatever. Like, nobody's calling you.
Nope.
But you put in a tight miter, and they're calling you in a week from now saying, like, these are all open.
Open up. Is that? And then you have to
didn't.
defend yourself and like, I'm a good carpenter. Here's my track saw and my planer. And see,
Yeah.
I'm a good carpenter.
Are we live again here yet? What?
Oh, you got the broken internet.
Oh, we broke this here. Let's get these guys back in here again. You're now live.
Phew. Felt so weird not
Why
being
do they
on there.
have an hour-long cap on Instagram Live? What is the point of that? Because they just let you restart it and then then they go and invite all the people back anyway. So what the hell is the point? Just put no limit on it. Or make it 3 hours.
Why
or
don't
something.
you send them a message?
I'm grumpy
Write
about
them
that.
an actual letter, a hard copy letter. They'll take you seriously.
They're censoring you.
Bryce, put that on your things to do. Write a letter to Instagram and send it to the internet.
Put a hash brown on it.
Okay, we've got our
We
crowd
watched that
back
video
here now.
yesterday.
I did, yeah.
Did you?
Good. Yeah.
Pat was showing it off again.
Put a snake on it and make it chrome and send it to the internet.
I own the cassette.
We're done with miners. We drug that out to allow for people to get back into the
When
chat.
you're listening to this podcast, go onto YouTube and type in, what is it? Type in Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai hash brown. That'll get
Cobra-
it. That's what I searched for. the
Cobra
other day.
Kai hash brown, and then watch that video.
Mateus is in here. Look at that. And Garrett.
Good.
We're on our last one, number 104.
X5.
Oh yeah, X5.
Speaking of X5s,
How that, to me, that looked like 104, but like my writing's a little messy. Clearly it's an X5. Now you say it, I can see that it's a.
speaking of X5s, did you see
X5.
the new PlayStation 5 was out?
I had seen that they released a design or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a picture of it too. You gonna get one?
No.
Me either. I haven't played video games since I broke my ankle.
Do they have Mike Tyson's Punch Out on it?
They should. If they want to sell any game consoles, they'll get that on there.
Yeah. When's it coming out?
No
In
idea.
time for Christmas.
No, I was just like, the way that I
Is Christmas happening this year?
check news stories is much like I just scroll through Instagram and I see a picture of it, and then I just tuck that little nugget in there and be like, there, PlayStation must be coming out with a new one. I have zero information
This will
other
be
than
good for
that.
the podcast someday.
Yep. No release date. I actually didn't know that it was a design. I thought the actual console was out because I didn't click on the story at all.
I don't believe it's actually out. I think they just released the design, like what it's going to look like,
Oh, well, that's good to know.
which looks like nothing like all of the images prior to it coming out said it was going to look like. It doesn't look like that.
Okay.
X5. Uncapped composites. This is the last one. You would know it's the last one because X5 is a common
That's obvious ending. point.
denominator of the last point you're going to make is X5.
Yep.
All the time.
Uncapped composites. You know what goes hand in hand with uncapped composites?
PL
Brad
and Brad
nails and PL. Yeah. This is where we see it all the time. The same guys that think nailing their decking down still make an argument for using uncapped composites.
I could router it.
Frick.
I can router it.
Premium Yard and Garages has a good.
Do you need to get to it now?
Sure.
Eric Teru says tech talk isn't nearly as much fun as fashion talk.
Yeah.
Did we do fashion talk? Socks and boots we were talking about. Premier Yard and Garage says, I got a great idea. Instead of G-tape, use double-sided Gorilla Tape and pin nails. Then you can skip the PL. This guy, I like this guy. He's full of great ideas. Kill two birds with one stone. Just double-sided tape, keep the water off, keep the board down. Next.
Next.
On to the next deck.
This guy, yep. There it is. Coming to a neighborhood near you.
Yeah.
Gorilla tape decking.
Yeah. He should make it, though. Premium yard tape. Uncapped composites. Like we're probably preaching to the choir here.
Somebody listened to this and thought to themselves, he's not wrong. That's a good idea.
Yeah. Because, okay, let's, maybe we can talk about some ideas that have been out there that are worse than this idea. Like Brad Nelling's one.
Do we have to talk about uncapped composites? Like, it's shitty.
Do you want to finish that up real
No.
quick first?
I'm done with it.
There's still a wide variety of contractors and lumberyards in this province that still sell uncapped composites, generally Moisture Shield brand, the Vantage line, and
It's the
sucker their customers into thinking they're getting a good composite board.
It is a good composite board. It just doesn't perform as good as one that has a cap on it.
If you like fading, staining, and the fact you can scratch it off with your fingernail after being out in the weather for 4 years, I guess it's a good composite.
But you could build it underwater.
Sure.
And I can't tell you how many times I've seen decks underwater. No, I can't tell you.
New Orleans.
0.
I feel like it's goofy that we even have to make this argument, but because it actually is an argument that happens in our store from time to time.
Yeah.
Well, I like to work with that because I can router the edges because the color's all the way through. The hell does it matter? The color's going to be gone out of it in 4 days. Like, it's just going to fade to nothing within days of it being out in the sun.
You know that feeling that you had when we were talking about track saws and you were kind of pissed that people don't buy track saws?
Yeah.
This is how I feel about.
I'm not pissed that they don't buy track saws. I'm pissed that they slag the people that do.
Right.
If you don't want to buy one, fine. But get off your pedestal thinking you're the only guy that can cut a straight line and the guys that got track saws need it because they can't. That's what pisses me off.
Right.
But anyways, you're pissed off because
We're
people
still
are
talking about
uncapped composites in 2020.
It's the worst. And they sell it retails for more money than an entry-level capped composite from any other reputable brand.
Right.
Or not reputable brand. You could buy that stuff from China that has speed holes all through it and have 15 years of warranty on that.
That you'd never be able to claim, but yeah.
Doesn't matter because they
paper.
changed their number too. They are onto me. They know. But like that stuff is better. I just don't get it. I don't understand why.
Holy, that's a big statement there that cheap Chinese garbage crap is better than uncapped. You're probably not wrong.
Nobody's going to like that. The people from Moisture Shield aren't going to like that. But the customer doesn't care that it's like waterproof and like nobody gives a shit. It's all waterproof. It's plastic.
Yeah.
So then make the board so it doesn't fade and stain.
Right.
That's it. And so this isn't all of Moisture Shield. They have lots of lines that have the capping on it. Just the Vantage line is like, I don't understand why you're doing it. Trex used to have a board
already. Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's right. Trex used to have a board that's like that, and then they got better, and now they don't.
But the problem for Moisture Shield is they're still selling tons of it. So why would you end of life it?
Yeah. If
Like
you're in the business, if you're the CFO or the CEO on that business, on that company, you're like, yeah, but that's where we make all our money.
Driving sales like crazy. Why would you end of life it now?
Yeah.
But so, and we
two guys in Regina with a podcast of following of 7 people.
We don't
scrap it. Okay.
We don't
better
stock
shut
it
that
for
off.
obvious reasons. But the
'cause it
distributor of
pisses
it
me off.
is one block to the east of us here. The distributor's right there. We can get it if somebody needs it. The only time we ever bring this in is if somebody's matching an existing deck. They're doing an extension on it, or they've got it in the front of the house, and the home builder used this stuff, and they care more about it matching than they care about the obvious drawbacks of it.
And then we tell them,
Fine.
it's not going to match because the color's all faded out.
Right.
So
It's going to take some time for it to match, but not that much time.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah, I mean, structurally, like I said, structurally it's fine, but you find the stuff and you can scratch it off with your fingernail after a few
Can you
years.
tell me
It's
how
not
you
good.
really feel about it though now?
And if your barbecue spits a little bit, or you spit a little bit, or you leak fluids, or you piss in a mop bucket and it overflows and gets on the deck, then it's gonna stain.
Because I certainly don't spill alcohol.
Yeah, it just stains immediately. And then like if you have a chair in the wrong spot or a barbecue mat or something and it fades, like you leave a dark ring because the sun didn't fade that spot and it only took days for it to start fading, and like it's just like, why do you want to deal with all those problems? because you can route the edges? Give me a break.
Maybe it's a Jay-Z song.
I'm not getting the reference.
99 Problems.
Oh, right.
Ayo, touch my hand.
Wrong one.
No, I meant for that one. I've just been waiting to use it, and I wasn't sure when the right time was. So
I think it was not there.
Anyway, I struggle to understand why the hell that product's still being sold so much here. But anyway, back to the idea of using the tape. We were talking about other bad ideas that are out there. I believe it was my first time to IBS, which is
5 years ago.
Sure, roughly 4 or 5 years ago, 4 years ago probably. And there was a product there. It was a Canadian company out of Calgary, and I can't imagine they're still selling this. But they were using magnets to
Bryce thinks this is hilarious. Yeah.
magnets.
They were interior trim
Is there
guys.
any metal in the decking or in the wood? Like, I suppose.
They were interior guys that were like,
Holy
you know how we should put baseboards on? You know how we should put baseboards on? We should not nail them because then we don't have to paint it.
So
let's put magnets in there.
As far as the wood, we're undoubtedly going to have somebody be like, there's copper in the treated lumber and there is metal flake and TimberTech decking. So technically, are either of them like strong enough to attract magnetivity? Is that a word?
Nope. I don't think
Magnetism?
Magnetism is what.
No.
That's what I
Not
have.
a magnet's not going to stick to your lumber. So this is actually where the idea came from because they also made that. Their original product was magnets for baseboards. And so they had a product with baseboards where you put magnets on the back of them and they would be attracted to the nails in the floor plate.
Mm-hmm.
And so they actually would, like, there was nothing else required.
Or
You put
steel
them up there
framing.
and it could have also worked with steel framing. So you just magnet your base. I don't know. Even that's kind of goofy.
You're
but
like vacuuming along and you hit your baseboard and it like falls off. Boonk. Oh yeah, no problem. Just stick that back on.
yeah.
Boonk.
So in a way though, like I guess if you look at toe kicks for cabinetry, they're just held on with like little plastic clamps on the feet, whatever.
Yeah.
I guess they're not being held on much better these days than a magnet, but that's one thing though. But to put the deck boards on your deck with magnets, so what you had to do is you had to route out a channel, a massive channel in the back of the deck board, like a big wide V-groove slot. You're only leaving like an inch of material on the side of the boards, and then through the middle you had to route out like a half-inch deep channel that you would then slide magnets into, or maybe it was a steel plate on that side, steel plates into the back of the board.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd have to put this, they had this like plastic, kind of like, you know how the camo edge clips have a horseshoe that grabs the side of the joist? It was like a massive one of those. It was like a plastic piece that grabbed the side of the joist that had a magnet on the top of it. So you have to go around and slide these magnet holder joist things on the joist everywhere.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to route the back of your board out, slide these steel channels into the back of the board, and then so easy now to put your deck boards on. Click.
Sounds super efficient.
Installs
to me.
in seconds.
Yeah.
Once you spent 4 days routing out 9 deck boards to put steel plates in the back of them.
How many decks did you do like that? At what point did you give up on that system?
Oh man. I talked to them there and I I didn't want to be rude. I wanted to understand this. I was like, clearly this isn't as effing dumb as it sounds. I'm missing something here. Tell me about the system.
Turns out.
So I
it was
said,
pretty dumb.
I was like, who in their right mind? You don't have a router big enough to channel out a 4-foot V groove into the back of a deck board. So if you're going to do it, how many passes are you making with that thing? So I said, what is the idea here? Like, nobody's going to do that on site. Oh, well, we're working with some of the manufacturers to see if they'll do this. Yeah, they won't. They are not going to do that. They're not going to change their extrusion process so that you can use magnets on their decking. They've got their own fasteners that are way better ideas than what you're doing here. And then they were like, well, we're considering the idea of making our own boards too. Yeah, don't do that either. You're telling me this fastener is so good it's worth dumping millions into making a new deck board for it? No, this is stupid.
Yeah.
I didn't say that part. I didn't tell them it was stupid to their face. I let the universe take care of this.
Yeah. Darwinism.
I gotta research this. If that product's still out there, it will blow my effing mind. I can't imagine that it made it out of that show. I can't imagine they didn't walk away from that show like all like bruised and be like, I didn't see the feedback being like that. Like, I actually took Peter Core from Fortress, who is there, and I was like, have you seen this? Like
Come
down
here.
the aisle here? You got to come see us. He's like, what are you talking about? We go over and look at it, and he looks at it, and he's just dumbfounded. The look in his face was like, I don't get it. I was like, I don't know that anybody gets it. What a terrible idea. So that versus Brad nailing and PL?
I'd
I might Brad nail
Brad
that.
nail and PL.
Just, I would at least use stainless ones.
Be faster.
So we got to go back here and check some comments because that was a big long rant there. Eric Teru says, hold on, we got to go back a little bit further. Where are we? Holy smokes, we missed a bunch here.
Just a few.
Who's talking about BC as well?
Garrett.
But Moisture Shield,
Moisture Shield.
as a painted protector. What? What does that mean? But Moisture Shield as a painted protector. Eric also says, we have a stocking dealer here. Yeah, so it's not just here that people are still carrying and selling that stuff. Ugh. Eric also thinks that the magnet sounds like a great time saver and surprised it didn't catch on.
Yep.
And Mondo 360 Design says, what's the best way to make composite walkway over dirt?
Steel framing.
Do you think he has this podcast muted and he doesn't know
Maybe.
what we're talking about today?
Follow me for more recipes.
It depends on your composite. You got to look into your ventilation requirements because some of them won't allow that. And the ones that do, then you need to put down a sleeper that's not going to rot away. Look into decorator sleepers. If you want to put it on dirt, I guess.
Yeah, do decorators.
I don't know that there's a good way to put it over dirt.
Or PVC.
What kind of foundation should I make or build? Send us a message about that. That's too much to go into here and not really on topic. 3 feet by he's gonna give all the details in here right now.
All of them.
Camel rules, paint it. Yeah, whatever. Okay. So no valuable comments in the thing right now that we're going to talk about. So if you have anything left to say on the Instagram, say it now because we're going to wrap this up here pretty quick. Just to roll through the list one more time. The first one was taping joists, good or bad, track saws, planing down joists once they're installed, doing waterfall corners, using screws instead of nails for framing, using hidden fasteners instead, like hidden clips instead of face screwing deck boards, using end cut treatment on your treated lumber where you've cut it, not using piles in the ground, just using on grade applications for your deck, whether you should miter or butt joint the joints on your picture frames, and uncapped composites versus like everything else that's better. And we had a suggestion from the audience about giving some comments on brad nails and glue, which we tore that apart.
Yeah.
So
An hour and 20 minutes later.
that's that. Mondo 360, send us a message with your questions and we can try to help you out that way. And that's it for me. Is that it for you too? Are you also done?
I'm done.
You made it through, no puking.
I was really close at about the 50-minute mark.
Good for you.
I felt
Thanks, everyone. If you have any additional things we should chat about on this podcast, send us a message. Let us know what those are. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to the Ultimate Deck Podcast.
Ultimate Deck Podcast.
Brought to you by the Ultimate Deck Shop.
Hold on here. Hold on. This is the first time we've ever got to it. I just blew Bryce's mind. There was a question.
I just about had my headphones off. I was done. I was like,
This is the first time we've ever done this. And the look on Bryce's face was absolutely classic.
It was worth
And I don't know that anybody listens through the whole like outro before they turn the radio off. So
You should give a
many
discount
people
code right
won't
now
see
for
this.
online shopping.
I should, yeah. 50% off everything right now if you've stayed with us. No, there was a question that came in, the first question before we even got going on this podcast, and I wrote it down and I meant to address it, but I forgot, and I just saw it as I was about to clean my papers up here. But somebody mentioned earlier in the podcast, and I don't remember who it was, that said that they heard that AZEK is changing the color of the core of their boards to be dark gray on all their lines.
Oh.
And I have not heard that. Have you?
No.
And I also don't know why they would do that. Like, I understand trying to match the core to the color of the cap. That makes a lot of sense to me. But to just change the core to a dark gray from what currently is like, they're usually like a light gray color in most.
Maybe the
AZEK
dark
boards.
gray is less offensive for your butt joints.
I can't understand why they would just go with a dark color. But some brands like Decorators or even I think Wolf in some cases does color the core of the board to match the cap. It's not a perfect match. It doesn't look perfect, but it's close that you don't really need to paint the ends or touch
Right.
up the ends. So if AZEK's looking at doing that, that's a good call. Like match the color of it. But I have not heard that, so I am sorry. I missed answering that, and we brought it back. We brought the podcast back. It was, yeah.
Ayo, touch my hand.
We got another comment here though while we're on here again. So
This is never
Premium
gonna
Yard
end.
and Garage says, I had a
Do you
guy
know
ask
that
this
I'm
week
hungover and I want to go?
if I would remove his existing treated deck and then dig a hole and bury it so it was flush with the lawn. Yeah. Okay.
So you dig it out and put a bunch of P-rock in there?
Yeah, if you put it in proper drainage and you get it down low and you protect the outer band that's going to have wood against it. Like we've done that on the Build Love project. It was dug into the ground a bit and there was proper drainage with rock, and I believe they even had like a French drain kind of coming off the side to help that drain. And we wrapped the outside with 12-inch G-tape so that when it got backfilled up against it, there was no wood actually sitting against the framing. It was all protected.
No dirt.
So there's
sitting
ways
against
to
the
do
frame.
this safely, but if the guy's just like, can you just bury the deck as is?
Sure.
That's not a good idea. So anyway, sorry to bring this back, but we did. Let's do this again. That's
Good
it
luck.
for the comments. I got no more questions.
Oh wait, hang on.
Oh God, no. Quigley Dex has a comment about, he's got some information about the AZEK things. Let's answer that. That is true. We had a delivery of AZEK Brownstone. The core is dark gray.
Okay.
So there you go. The answer is yes, they're doing it, I guess, but I don't know why.
He was willing to spend $500 on labor.
And you walked? What? How'd you not take that times two?
Unbelievable.
The core is gray. Not coming back this time. We're done. Peace. See everybody next week.
You've been listening to the Ultimate Deck Podcast.
Ultimate Deck Podcast.
Brought to you by the Ultimate Deck Shop. Shop with us at www.ultimatedeckshop.com or check us out at all the social networks we can keep up with. Hit us up for any collaboration or sponsorship opportunities. Thanks for listening.
So that is the end. I'm not going to replay the outro again, but we got a comment that says why AZEK's doing that. So if you made it through to the end of the outro, good for you. You got some more content here. Garrett from TimberTech, who would know why they did this, told us why they did this. AZEK moved to the common core to increase their recycling content, making it the most sustainable PVC on the market. So the dark gray, for whatever reason, is a result of them using some recycled content in the core of the board, which I think is not typically the case with PVC decking. Usually it's brand new virgin plastic. Correct. So if that allowed them to get some recycled content into it, that's a good thing, and that's a good reason for making it dark gray. Peace.